Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Level 1 News. What are we doing today? Government and security, and it is December 8th.
I see that the dog is back in the frame.
Yeah, she was about to knock over my iPad case, and I was like, don't you do it. The iPad's not in it right now, but she was like nosing at it. Oh, now she's licking her crotch, chat.
Yeah, that's what
We're
you do.
good, dog.
Yeah. It's Friday. Right?
It is
That's what you
Friday.
do, yeah.
Well, it's Tuesday for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, government security. I don't have the browser open. I'm not prepared.
No.
Oh,
All right.
yeah. All of this stuff this week is brought to you by Linode because they have really awesome hosting. One click, whatever you want. You want to do the, WordPress thing? You can totally do that.
Why do you always go with that example?
I don't know.
Yeah, why
we did the WireGuard thing, or you did the WireGuard thing. It's really awesome. Now we also have a Minecraft server hosted on Linode. That was not the one-click installer because of the Grief plugin stuff.
But they do have one-click installer.
They do.
They do have a one-click
Now,
install.
we need to make a decision about that, actually. So it's been running since Wednesday.
Yes.
Wednesday, yeah.
We're averaging probably 3-4 players.
Yeah, it's not a lot. I think
Because-
I need to move it from the category it's in the forum.
Yeah, we put it in a somewhat protected category to try to balance the griefing and the fun.
Well, I can tell you that you had at least 30 people in the comments that tried one time to look for it, and then they just said, oh, I guess it's not up yet.
Right.
But as a result of doing this, we will get a lot. Because I did the same thing with the giveaway, and all of a sudden, 300 people signed up.
But so it is in the. Well, are we going to move it? Like, we should probably decide.
Move the thread?
Because it's in
The
a.
thread-
You
it's
can't
in the
just
server.
register.
The link
and-
is in the description. There's no excuse for us not to do that in this episode, because it now exists.
Oh, so we are. You want to put the IP in this video?
The link to the thread in the description.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But some people still don't have access to that, right?
No, they'll have access to it.
No, it's because it's in the server thread, and you have to be, I think, forum level
It's a
2.
trust level.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll fix that.
So we'll
Yeah,
move
I'll
it.
fix
All
that. Sorry. Anyway, that
everybody-
was a long discussion.
Everybody will have access. A couple of people have had 3 days by being forum members. I think that's fair.
I think that's fair, too.
Yeah. If you weren't already a forum member, why not?
And remember, we're giving stuff away at the end of December, depending on how impressive your stuff is. And Chris is the judge.
Yeah. All the information's in the thread about how we're going to do the judging and stuff, so.
Well, I mean, I can help judge, too, but I would defer to Krista because...
I think we should do some live streams and check it out live.
Well, there was, Wendell, there was talk of Minecraft on the stream.
Oh, yeah.
I know that you're not
That's fine. I mean,
most tolerant of
I would take
Minecraft.
one for the team for that. It's fine.
I'm not. I don't know what to do on a Minecraft stream. Like, Minecraft to me is a game where you just tune out, you put on a podcast, and you just, your brain takes a little vacation.
That's why I like it.
Yeah, but on a stream, how much fun is that to watch? That's the question.
Not at all.
It's true.
Anyway, speaking of the Level 1 forum, the Level 1 forum, among with millions and millions of other websites,
Also hosted on Linode.
might have a problem not related to Linode.
Oh,
If-
right. Ugh.
If this were to come true, now we've done a lot of stories about this. There's been a lot of back and forth, but this is maybe the nastiest volley in this exchange because it's a very disgusting thing that happens a lot in U.S. politics.
Jump to Congress. Repeal Section 230 or I'll veto military funding. Basically, Section 230 is what shields online platforms from the stuff that their users post legally. So if somebody goes rogue and starts posting something, it's like, here's how you can download Minecraft for free. We can just block that content or take that content off, and we are not responsible for the actions of our users. Trump's main problem is that Twitter keeps labeling his tweets as incorrect or as being disputed,
Misleading.
and that is driving him insane.
Well, it's not just Twitter.
Yeah, it's not just Twitter.
A lot of different social media and news organizations are doing it.
I feel like we wouldn't be seeing this if Twitter wasn't doing that, though.
He does seem to focus on that one. Now, in Section 230, the big thing, they drilled down a little bit more. Ars Technica did a pretty good job. So when it comes to Trump's vision of this, it's kind of scorched earth. There are some other provisions that are a little less extreme, and probably the most likely one, I think, is one that removes language which says that otherwise objectionable content can fall under the things that you can get rid of. Lewd, obscene, lascivious, filthy, excessively violent, harassing, or otherwise objectionable. Who gets to decide? Well, basically Twitter at this point. That's what Trump really, really hates.
It's also worth pointing out that in all of the rhetoric around this, it's like, oh, this is free pass for big businesses, blah blah blah. It's like, look, we're level one. We're scratching out a decent, thing here, but without Section 230, we literally could not do it. So I think it would disproportionately affect small businesses more than large businesses. This could turn into one of those monkey's paw things where, remember when Netflix was like, oh, net neutrality, blah, 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 and then Netflix realized, like, wait a minute, we can just pay our way out of this, and then it would actually be harder for competing companies to get, a level playing field. Okay, let's buy into the whole net neutrality thing.
Could be. Plus, Twitter probably not going to have to worry too much about this if they can just hold out for another month.
Yeah.
But who should be worrying, and increasingly worried, I would say, because this snowball just keeps gaining mass. And that is the big tech companies, specifically Google and Facebook, because they are the juiciest targets.
Facebook and Google to face new antitrust suits in the U.S. CEO Eric Schmidt sees antitrust law as a very blunt instrument. So this is talking mainly about Facebook and Google, but it's also talking about lawsuits that states are going to file. So Google's facing antitrust at the federal level, and New York is sort of spearheading this thing against Facebook to say that Facebook has behaved anti-competitively as well. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Now, I can't imagine what Google could have done to be labeled as such a monster. I mean, what kind of behavior would cause the government to come after you like this?
Oh, man. Google illegally spied on workers before firing them, U.S. Labor Board alleges. Company policies violated labor law, according to the complaint. We reported on this like 2 years ago, and we said, hey, that seems weird, because Google sent out a notice that said they were going to do something with your calendars, and people were adding personal events but marking them as private to their personal calendars and using Google, like their Google stuff, like a Gmail account, in order to organize. And Google was like, we can spy on things. And it seemed to be Google's interpretation of, if you're using any Google services, not just your employee Google services, we have a right to look at that. And the labor board looks like they're going to disagree.
Those people were not just creating calendars entries, they were creating unionization calendar entries.
That's not allowed.
Not fans
Unacceptable.
Of that.
But see, you can't not allow that. You can't not allow that. But the end run that Google tried to do around that was to say they can't use company resources to do that. But that's not actually what happened, according to the U.S. Labor Board.
Now, if this plays out completely in favor of the individuals, Google might have to rehire them. How awkward would that be?
I think Google will probably just, give them $1 million and be like, good luck.
I would go on. I would see how far I could take it, because now you're basically invulnerable, right? I would be just like throwing trash all over the place, just go in the cafeteria, just start like just putting stuff on the floor, peeing in the sink.
Rue agrees with that. Yes.
Yeah. Rue's all about peeing in the sink.
Rue just threw a pillow down like, fuck the establishment. No, hang on. Rue, if you're not going to be good, come on.
Oh, you can't eject Rue. Chat.
She's going to have to bring her back with treats after the labor board ruling.
She's so clumsy.
She was also about to knock the lamp off the bedside table, so I was like, all right, we're done in here. You're going to go downstairs now.
The comment section is going to be furious with you, Kristen.
I'm sorry. She's distracting.
Now, if you'll think back to 1986, we were alive, but we were pretty young. The world saw that the personal computer was going to become a thing, and it was going to be big. And so the lawmakers got together and they said, we got to figure out what happens when you're trying to get into other people's computers. We see this could be a problem. And amazingly enough, that same law, this many years later, is still controlling how we interact with computer systems and what's a crime and what isn't. Until possibly now.
The Supreme Court will hear its first big computer fraud and abuse case. This is important because we see many cases where the prosecutor has vastly overreached, in my opinion, with this law. Aaron Schwartz, he was downloading publications that probably should have been free in the first place if you look at it on the whole. And then he was republishing them on the internet. But they brought the hammer down on him hard. And, being a relatively meek nerd, he committed suicide as a result of that. So it's definitely, the punishment has to fit the crime. And in a lot of cases with the CFAA, it doesn't.
We got burned by the Washington Post again. The Washington Post has the worst paywall because they just funnel you back to their front page.
Yeah, I hate that.
Oh, well.
Oh, well. Enjoy whatever it was in the one tab.
I don't know why we lost there. But you miss the opportunity, or you miss an important point about that story, is it could get worse.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lobby who wants to lock it down and prevent these researchers from doing things.
The worst lobby is making the terms and conditions of the website somehow binding. Like, you agree not to do this, and it's like, oh, it's illegal. You agreed. It's like, that's not what that is.
The moment that the signature, the last stroke of that signature goes onto that, we all become criminals.
Yeah.
I mean, those of us who aren't already.
Well, I mean, the Google terms of service would, it's like, I'm misusing Google services, you criminal. Imagine using YouTube DL being criminalized.
Which, I mean, they wanted that, obviously.
Yeah.
We have another state that has chosen to put the stop to facial recognition. And like every other instance of this is a slightly different flavor. That's the bad thing about these, like the federal level, they're never going to do it. On the state level, yeah, maybe you get some progress, but they're all so different.
Massachusetts lawmakers vote to pass a statewide police ban on facial recognition. This is just police using the technology directly. And even in other places that have this ban, there have been cases where they haven't actually done that. And it also doesn't close the loophole on third-party services that do facial recognition.
You think the Palantir stock went up on that announcement?
Yeah.
Ventel?
Yeah.
Ventel's not facial recognition. But
so we don't actually own our own police cars. We lease them from Palantir, and they're the ones that are doing the face and license plate recognition. And then when we want to know if what all faces were seen in this thing, we don't know. We don't maintain that. We just give Palantir $5,000, and then they tell us all the faces that they saw on that corner in a given day and time.
So not only is it unethical, it's also incredibly wasteful of tax dollars.
Yeah.
But Palantir makes so much.
Yeah. It's so good for Palantir's shareholders. Yay.
That's what you call trickle-up economics. It's more of a vacuum.
It's really working out for us.
So we talked about, was it the week before last? The big reveal. Of course, this was years ago, decades ago that this happened. But the Swiss, the populace, they were thinking, yes, we're so neutral. We're so much better than the rest of the world because of our neutrality. What they didn't know is that with some of their corrupt government, and maybe all of it, we're really not sure, they were not being neutral at all. And it was a big story, and it was a big explosion. And now we find out that it was even bigger of a break of that neutrality than we originally thought.
Report claims CIA controlled second Swiss encryption firm. So this one went out of business 2 years ago, but it turns out the CIA were there all along. That company had sold cryptographic technologies, encrypted phones, encrypted fax machines, things like that, to many countries around the world, including some to Switzerland themselves, which their communications were not secure. Also, Swiss banks, their communication also not secure.
The phrase... You used a phrase there that I think is probably applicable far more than we realize, which is the CIA was there all along.
It's the CIA. It has been all along. Always has been.
Apple. I love this one.
Apple makes a lot. Remember the big troll?
Yeah, you could once you've downloaded the update, it's waterproof. Yeah,
but this is not that. Apple really did say that they'd increased water resistance to their iPhones, but no one told that to the engineering team who installed the watermark devices inside the iPhones, which void your warranty.
Apple fined $12 million for unfair claims about iPhone water resistance. So they said it's water resistant up to 4 meters for up to 30 minutes, but it turns out those were only at best in ideal underwater lab conditions. But you would think a phone that's waterproof, would not be excluded from warranty based on water claims. But no, there's still water indicators all over the device, so people would go to get their device repaired because it got water in it and something happened, and Apple would be like, no, you don't get it replaced. The water sensors in the old phones used to be set off by having your phone in the bathroom while you take a shower. Just really high humidity, and it's like, oh, no, there's water in your phone. That's how hideously evil Apple is. And I'm surprised that hasn't been a class action lawsuit.
I mean, 12 million. Come on.
Yeah. Well, that was only one EU member state. Other member states may also.
Yeah, they do mention
They're all
that
dogpile on.
if they got class action with all of those. But still, it's not going to be enough to...
Yeah. Apple, stop being terrible. That's all you got to do. Stop being terrible.
Also, the EU, they like to present this unified front. Like, we're all one, except the UK. They're not part of us anymore.
We don't talk about them.
But when it comes to how they do things, often the actions of the government doesn't reflect that, beautiful hand-in-hand reality, or the reality doesn't reflect the hand-in-hand fantasy. And one of those things that will be obvious to you if you live in the EU is your streaming.
EU lawmakers push audiovisual sector on geoblocking. So it turns out that if you've got a Netflix subscription and you travel, it doesn't work. So it'd be like us in the US. It's like, I've got Netflix. I'm going to go, visit some family that live in Texas. My Netflix subscription doesn't work there. It only works in my home state. That's kind of like how it is actually for Europe. It'll work, or it'll work a little bit, or it'll not work at all. So the EU is saying that we can't have this. But a lot of the time, this is rights holders. It's, it predates the European Union. That's just how it's always been. The grift for, commercial technology. There's also a lot of economic variance because, you think like Turkey. They're still in the EU, right? You got to think a Netflix subscription in Turkey costs a lot less than, say, Germany.
Well, they actually pointed that out. So, well, not Turkey, but so Germany is the example of lots of money. Germany gets, if you take all of the content of the EU Netflix into account, Germans can access 43% of it. Not bad. Probably everything in their language, and a little bit that's not. Greece, on the other hand, not as rich. Greece can access 1.3% of Netflix.
I think Greece is what I was thinking of, yeah. Yeah. Because why? Because they can't afford it, the subscription variance. And it's like, no, we are one European Union.
Is this where we get corrected that Turkey's not in the EU?
Yeah.
It's in
probably.
NATO.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's what I was, yeah. I was trying to think of Greece.
They've
already,
yeah.
It's
angry.
too late, yeah. There's already 20 comments about it.
You idiot. Puerto Rico's not a state. I'm sorry. If you thought Puerto Rico was a state, I could forgive you.
Well, it's not a state.
I said if they thought that Puerto Rico was a state, I could forgive them.
Let me, so that'll be a bunch of garbage in the comments, but let me filter out that garbage and start a bunch of new garbage comments, because we're going to talk about vaccination.
Oh, no.
Now, vaccines, we won't argue the efficacy of the vid vaccines or who's going to have them first or whether or not you should take them. What we want to talk about is the security around them. And it seems like some major players have already identified most of that supply chain and are very interested in it.
Mysterious phishing campaign targets organizations that are involved in the vaccine cold chain. The targets include EU directorates, companies making shipping containers, and a website development firm linked to the supply chains. Wow, they're starting to target the nerds that are involved. That's not very smart.
Yeah, so clearly... what do you think the game in here? You think this is ransomware?
I think it's probably ransomware and probably also intelligence services, because intelligence services need to know what the actual state is, because you can't, all the media and the press secretaries, literally none of it's trustworthy.
That's true. Now, when you get hacked... I'm sorry, Krista.
I was going to say, didn't they say they had a bunch of the vaccine? I remember there was a story that were like, oh, it's at O'Hare Airport in Chicago. And I was like, that seems like a security risk to mention that you have a large amount of your stock at a certain airport.
I don't think they've chosen one yet, right?
I think some of it has already been distributed, and
Yeah.
it's going to the healthcare workers. The healthcare workers are the first ones to get it.
Aren't there multiple candidates at this point? Which one are they using?
I think
Both.
Pfizer.
I think both are out.
Pfizer was the one I saw about in Chicago.
A lot of these guys are prepping. They don't actually care which one wins. They're the refrigeration backbone
Yeah.
to distribute it because it has to be cold.
One of them has to be super cold, impossibly cold. Like we don't have the distribution infrastructure to handle it.
I think both of the ones that are like the leading contenders have to be super cold. Someone's going to correct me in that, but I think both Moderna and Pfizer.
Both of them do, but one of them has to be like colder than most. Like most hospitals just don't have a storage facility that operates at that temperature.
What if we used a Jeep Pie and he could use his cold heart to keep our vaccines at the proper temperature?
Little known fact: his heart is actually a superconductor.
We've moved to security, in case you didn't notice. The FBI is often throwing out these little cybersecurity warnings. This one is it's kind of obvious, but maybe you don't think about this when you're thinking about your cybersecurity, and it's a good thing to think about.
FBI warns of email forwarding rules being abused in recent hacks. So your email gets compromised, you change your password, everything's all good, right? Wrong. Your email client, especially if it's a web client, could have a rule in it that says, hey, any message that comes in, forward it to this other external email. It's a pretty common tactic. And depending on what kind of hookup you have for your hosted email, IT people may not be able to see that that's happening. So like, for example, if you've got your corporate email hooked up to download into your Gmail and they hack your Gmail and they're forwarding out of your Gmail, your corporate people can't see the rules that you've created in Gmail for forwarding. And so you could be forwarding internal corporate emails to an external thing just depending on the mail client you're using. You could also have a local mail client like, say, Thunderbird. And you could have that rule set up and your IT people can't see that rule inside your local mail client.
You also could be sending two factors.
Yeah.
So they dark web you, they find your password. Oh, but it's two-factored. Oh, except they're already in your mailbox.
Yeah.
And
Even after you change your password, they're still in your mailbox.
and if you didn't change your password, they go in and delete the email, so you never see it.
Yeah.
Dark times. Now we know at this point that phone apps are mostly malicious. Just you gotta live in terror.
Yeah.
You can't just go and install phone apps.
They literally bundle malware.
Browser extensions.
Also malware.
They're done. A couple of people will comment and they're like, you got to install these paywall blockers. And on one hand, I like you to be frustrated by the paywalls because you should hate them. But on the other hand, I don't trust those extensions.
I don't trust many
Yeah.
of them either.
Yeah. I mean, uBlock, it's got a decent pedigree, but these are just random ones you link to, we're not installing them. But perhaps the darkest timeline, a timeline that it can only be in 2020, is when the package managers fall.
Malicious NPM packages caught installing remote access trojans. JavaScript and Node.js developers who installed the jdb.js and db-json.js packages were infected with the NJ-Rat malware. This is truly the darkest timeline.
Who can you trust?
Literally nobody.
Do you ever think, like, we'll look back on 2020 and it'll be like, that was the last good year? like this is just the beginning of the worst times.
They were quick to get on top of them. These were only there for approximately 100 installs, but that's 100 installs.
That's 100 installs.
And who knows what else is lurking on there.
Gosh, that always freaks me out too. When you npm install a bunch of stuff and then it's just your computer's just thrashing for several minutes. And it's like, what's it
Or
doing?
you install something and you're pretty confident about it. It's like, oh, this will also install, and there's like a big list, and you're, oh,
Yeah. Why?
That's what they got.
do I have to do another hour of research here?
That's weird. This strace shows that it's looking for wallet.dat. Huh. I wonder what that's about.
And when it comes to hacks for our phones, those are maybe our most vulnerable place is our phone at this point, I would say.
Yeah.
And when you hear about them, they come fast. You know, it's fast and furious. You get them every single week. But we really only like to talk about the most severe. Now, the good news is this was patched. I don't think anybody was ever affected. But, oh, boy.
Did you see the video on this?
Yeah.
It was amazing.
This is an amazing one.
The iPhone zero-click Wi-Fi exploit is one of the most breathtaking hacks ever. I would expect nothing less from Apple. So it turns out Apple has put AirDrop functionality in the kernel. So if there's a vulnerability in AirDrop, guess what? You can take over the kernel. So they've got a demo here where like they do something on a laptop and then there's a whole bunch of iPhones. You don't have to touch anything or do anything. And it immediately starts sending pictures and files on the iPhone devices back to the laptop. It's insane.
And it can worm because it's full control. And all you need is bad packets. So infected phone becomes spreading point for more infected phones.
Apple's better at security than they have been, but this just underscores that like clearly they don't have anybody internal doing any auditing.
Well, it goes back to last week when we talked about their internal firewall.
Yeah.
Their major problem is that they want to excuse themselves from the draconian security rules that they put on everybody else.
Yeah. Man, what a dumpster fire.
And let's say that you're like, oh, just miss me with those popular browsers. I only use terrible browsers, and that'll keep me safe, right? No.
Microsoft removes 18 malicious Edge extensions for injecting ads into web pages. Now you might be thinking, no, I don't use that horrible old Edge. I use the new Chromium-based Edge. No, this is what it is. That people like looked at popular extensions on Chromium and said, let's create fake versions of these extensions for people that have come here from Edge. And so, it's a double whammy of malware.
Ouch.
Do you know anybody who uses Edge?
I know
Other than for like testing?
I'm sure there's so many people who just buy new computers and use Edge.
I know a few people that have switched to Edge on Linux because Microsoft is offering Edge on Linux, and Edge on Linux, believe it or not, is less spyware-y than Chrome.
What a word.
Well, that's not surprising.
Oh, no, yeah, it doesn't surprise me about Chrome.
Yeah.
This webpage has had, I had to load 37 assets on this webpage. That's weird. Called the Google telemetry 481 times as I was loading it. That seems odd.
It's the old die young or live long enough to become Microsoft. Phrase we have to talk about here. Speaking of Microsoft, they are. We talked last week about their productivity score. If you missed that one, in Office 365. Office 365 is monitoring you at all times, obviously. And if you are in a corporate setting, then someone has a dashboard so they can go in and sort of look at your metrics, see what you're up to. Now, obviously, when people learned about this, they were furious because they're being spied on by a product that they're using. Hey, people don't like that. And so Microsoft has responded, I don't think they went far enough.
Yeah. Microsoft will remove usernames from productivity score feature after privacy backlash. So the little dashboard there is like, this person sent this many emails and did this other thing and did something else. And it's like, this is not good. Managers that don't know what they're doing are going to start to use this as a metric for things. And it's just, it's really
they
terrible.
do know
It was
what
in
they're
20 meetings, and so they're obviously productive, right?
People just schedule. It's like they're mentally keeping a tally. It's like, oh, I've only done 4 meetings this week. Better schedule a bunch. And Microsoft says, they're like, no. We're committed to privacy. And this was just, this was a feature we added. We didn't think about it being used that way. We would never do that. This is not something that Microsoft even thinks about ever.
Microsoft patents tech to score meetings using body language, facial expressions, and other data. Man, the sequel to Office Space, or the 2020 remake of Office Space, the dialogue here writes itself. It's like, hey, did you see Bob? He scored a 9.8 on his last meeting.
Is that out of 10 or 100?
Yeah.
Krista, you would get crucified by this.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
I would.
because you'd be doodling and maybe doing some flapping or something. And
Yeah, I'd say I don't know how to hide my facial expressions either. Like if something is distasteful to me, you can see it on my face. And I try to repress that, but I can't do it.
What do you think the effect on your score would be if you made somebody cry in a meeting?
Probably tank it.
The dashboard just starts blinking red. It's like, oh no, we've got a code 43 in the meeting.
Security arrives at the door.
It's like, look, I'm just trying to make a better product. Like, I think it's exciting that you have somebody that passionate that you're wanting to make the product that much better. But yeah, then it's just like, no, we must not upset the status
Oh,
quo.
it's all about feelings. Yeah.
And finally, the Tesla world. Boy, are they killing it this year. They are making a lot of money.
Going to talk more about that in business.
And people seem to be somewhat happy, except for Consumer Reports. But they did have a massive, massive security hole, although you had to work pretty hard to exploit it.
Yeah.
The good news is it's patched, and it's over-the-air patch, so you don't actually own that car. Don't worry. They fixed it for you.
Raspberry Pi used to hack Tesla Model X. So you were able to stand next to somebody and make a change or read their key fob or something with a Raspberry Pi.
The Bluetooth low energy could be updated. So you could poison the update, and it would accept any update.
But you still had to plug in something to the diagnostic port in order to pair the cloned key or something.
I don't know if you need to do that or not.
It was some sort of a convoluted process.
But yeah, it wasn't easy to do.
I'm pretty sure the PhD student is going to get their PhD for this, though, because they discovered something new and Tesla had to make changes to the global fleet everywhere.
Congratulations.
Neat. Dr. So-and-so, what's your PhD in? Hacking Teslas.
Key fobs. All right, that's all we got for today. And tomorrow we will look at business. And I don't remember I think it's going to be social media.
Wow. What a great week of news this will be.
You think so?
No, I mean, our content will always be fantastic every week.
Obviously.
But the news stories will probably be depressing and sad.
But it's just our charismatic spin on the news that causes that, Kristen, not the news itself.
Right.
All right.
Right. Dab on them. Bye.
Give them that good. There you go.
Bye. Hello. Welcome to the Level 1 News. Today is December 9th, 2020, and we're doing business and social media.
December is melting away rapidly, and I'm not comfortable with this.
I'm not comfortable with it either because we have a big project that has to be launched before the end of the month.
But
and I know we're going to have that weird week of Christmas as well.
But everything's going to be better in 2021, right?
Remember that comment I made last episode of the news where it's maybe we'll look back on 2020 as the good times.
Maybe.
That's the darkest timeline.
My favorite thing is the politicians that were like, you watch, after election day, all this stuff's just going to disappear. Guess what? It didn't.
I think we're hitting 2 to 3K deaths a day.
We did suddenly get a deluge of vaccines.
They're not. They haven't made it up to us plebs yet, so I don't know.
I'm fine with that. Oh, did you see that Clinton and Obama and was it HW? They claimed that they would get one.
Oh yeah, they're gonna live stream it or something. Yeah.
How do we know that's what's in there?
It's just saline.
Just meth.
Just
And it's
No
the
side
good
effects
presidential meth too.
They're gonna just pump Clinton to the gills with meth. Get him right on that Epstein plane, wherever the new location is.
Yeah, that would be, with the whole Epstein thing, you got to think back to his impeachment thing, and it's that seems much less serious.
That was just him, during the week, keeping the edge off.
Yeah. It's why am I being impeached for this? Do you have any idea what I've done on Fantasy Island?
She's fully grown. What are you talking about? Anyway, 2021 could be a new level of darkness. Prepare yourself for that. I'm not saying expect it, but maybe you should. And you should definitely be prepared. Now, let's say that you are a factory or a warehouse worker.
I thought you were going to go your usual dark path and say a faceless cog in the machine.
Well,
also accurate.
but very necessary right now because we still need, let's say that you work at the Lysol wipe factory. They aren't shutting that down for any reason. We have to have those.
It sure seems like they have.
We're desperate for them. You're cranking them out at rapid pace, and you have your job security. You're feeling good, but Mr. Jeff Bezos might have a little addition to your building that you won't care for.
Amazon to roll out tools to monitor factory workers and machines. Sensors, computer vision hardware, as tech giant pushes into the industrial sector. Good news, it's compatible with the existing closed-circuit television systems. It's going to use AI to decide if you're driving the tractor in the wrong part of the factory, or you're going too fast, or you're not social distancing, or you're not wearing a mask. But the sensors are wireless and cheap and easily deployed and last forever. And they're called Monotron. It's one of the lesser-known cousins of the Decepticon family.
It sounds kind of like ominous. I don't know if I like it.
Yeah, I'm sure that was the point.
Monotron was literally just a monitor.
Yeah.
They used him. He was alive, but they didn't acknowledge him.
Oh, we missed the story from how Google was getting in trouble for the whole protesting thing. There was a follow-up to the Pinkertons Amazon story from last week, which is, those protests that were supposed to happen on Black Friday. They shut them right down, and it will probably be a story next week, but I think the labor board or somebody's investigating because they were so effective in knowing exactly what was going to happen because they had people that were implanted in whatever that was for months.
I bet you these sensors are built with future plans to anti-union.
Yeah.
I like add some features like that to them. As soon as they can lobby enough to get the legal stuff, groundwork changed, just update the quick software update.
You go to your supervisor and it's like, hey, Tom, I think we're going to organize, they were doing a little meeting after work, just, some of the workers here in the thing. And it's like, oh, yeah, let me just, then there's like a little button under the table. It's like unionization alarm.
You don't even need the button. You just surreptitiously throw some gang signs at the sensor. And it triggers it.
You throw the Wu-Tang symbol. That's in the manual for managers. It's like if you do that, then it's an immediate silent alarm. That'd be amazing.
I was just thinking, if there's a gathering of more than 5 people, if you just happen to intersect with 4 other people on the floor, that automatically sends an alarm.
I'm totally going to do that at my house. If I make the the Vulcan symbol into the cameras, it's a silent distress call into the.
It's the 36 chambers of anti-union technology. And if you're thinking, well, what will Amazon do next? I mean, they basically own the world at this point. How can they take their awful technology and supercharge it to make it more able to rule our lives? And the answer, in hindsight, seems obvious.
Amazon is laying its groundwork for its own quantum computer, saying that depending on efforts to harness the technology and crunch seconds amounts of data, blah, blah, blah. This article is about, Amazon had a recent event, and this was one of the things to come out of that is their quantum computer. But I thought some of their other stuff was even more interesting. They've got their own CPUs, Graviton, and, they're just rolling out a bunch of changes to their infrastructure, and it's really interesting stuff.
Is the dog back, or did you just make a squeaking sound, Krista?
That was Rue. She came in briefly, looked out the window, whined, and then left.
Oh, okay. It's good to know that she has access to the room.
She does. She pushed the door open with her nose.
It's getting a little late to be filling up your Christmas list, especially when you probably shouldn't be shopping all that much.
Especially with computer components, because even last-gen stuff is sold out.
And so NVIDIA has a new announcement that will show you another wonderful video card that you're never going to be able to find. And this price that's on here, just don't even assume. Put another $200 on that, because that's the world we're living in now.
Minimum $200.
NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3060 Ti, $399. So the results are out. It's basically as fast as a 2080 Super, 2070 Super, 2080 Super, mostly 2080 Super. 8 gigs of VRAM. It's pretty fast. There are still supply issues. The supply chain is suffering. The container ship, lost hundreds of containers overseas, or miners bought them, or whatever.
Stopped off in China, and when it left, the containers were just gone.
Weird. And then there was $175 million in the bank account. I don't know what happened. It's weird.
The other thing we learned about 2020 is that a lot of the big phone companies were, first of all, not selling phones. And second of all, because of not selling phones, they're like, you know what? Maybe we don't need the fastest, newest, hottest Qualcomm processors in our phones. Which makes you wonder, where is this one going to go?
Qualcomm's new Snapdragon 888 processor will power Android flagships of 2021. Qualcomm is ready for all this to be over too. I wonder if that's what happened. Like analysts were looking at, sales of like phones and stuff that is involved with you commuting to work and just the general state of the economy. And it's like nobody can afford an $800 video card. Nobody can afford a $1,500 video card. Nobody can afford these new video game consoles. Let's manufacture really conservatively. When the reality is everybody is trapped at home and desperate for something to do.
Nah, because those same people understand the Americans' relationship with credit.
Mm.
We
We'll
will
just buy anything.
We will totally rob our future selves for a 3090. We'll do it.
We absolutely will.
Oh, PS5, yeah.
Not me personally.
No, I did. No, it's
I'm
fine.
in the minority.
It's not worth $1,500. It's worth maybe $1,000.
But the big claim to fame for this Qualcomm chip, the 5G is on the chip, whereas every other chip so far had to be an extra component to stuff in your tiny little phone.
Oh, Qualcomm's done it again. In before Apple says that's anti-competitive. We can't buy the 888 and use Intel's substandard 5G modem. That's anti-competitive.
But as you mentioned, they definitely are looking at the numbers when it comes to what should we manufacture? What can the people actually still buy in these hard times?
Definitely not food.
The numbers not looking great in the phone world.
Gartner says global smartphone sales declined 5.7% in third quarter of 2020. Well, yeah, you don't have to take your phone off charge. The number one reason to buy a new smartphone is because the battery crapped out.
I'm surprised it only dropped 5.7%.
Well, that's third quarter. In the first two quarters, it was a 20% drop.
Wow.
So it's kind of coming back,
No.
but it's going to be down on the year.
Yeah.
Unless somehow everybody gets a new phone for Christmas, which I doubt.
Intel's new x86 phone on the 10 nanometer process is finally... Oh, no. Never mind.
Now, when it comes to, it's like, who are they building these new pieces of technology for? Who can afford these? Well, one man, perhaps, could afford a new phone every millisecond of his life.
Elon Musk will consider having Tesla acquire a legacy automaker. It's doing really well, and so somebody asked him that, and that one question in the one interview was turned into this entirely long article. But knowing Elon Musk from the huge number of Elon Musk articles that we do, this is a throwaway nonsense article where it's just literally like, if you had the opportunity to buy GM for pennies on the dollar, would you do it? And he's like, yeah, that would make sense because they own a lot of things.
I like the picture they chose for the article, though, where there's no light in his eyes. That was a well composed shot of a billionaire.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Do you think they asked him for a pose,
Yes.
or is this just...
No, they absolutely staged that.
Where should I look? Just off in the middle distance somewhere.
And another quote that came from that same interview that turned into a story, this time on a different news organization, is about SpaceX instead.
Elon Musk is highly confident that SpaceX will land humans on Mars by 2026. So, Mr. Musk, can you remind me when full self-driving is going to be here again?
That project is boring to me now. I've moved on to space, in case you didn't notice. So I would appreciate if you didn't bring that up.
If the interviewers keep bringing that up constantly, he's just going to deliver a box of corpses to Mars and then be like, look, see, we're on Mars. It's like, that's just a bunch of corpses. I don't know.
They got there fine and they're perfectly healthy, but it seems like they've all become separatists. They refuse to send back any sort of proof. We should ignore Mars from now on. It's too dangerous. Now, if you'll harken back to when Tesla was not such a winner and they were actually embroiled in a lot of controversy that had to do with the safety concerns at their plants, that tent. Remember the tent?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, you can't do this. This is madness. And he was like, no, it's going to be fine. Well, there was another force conflicting with him at that time who were all short sellers of Tesla. And they did everything they could to find out his dirty secrets. They may have gone a little too far.
Tesla whistleblower Martin Tripp ordered to pay $400,000 to settle hacking case. This is fascinating. We've covered this at pretty much every turn, but you should go back and reread the summary. This did not turn out how I expected it to, although Martin Tripp fired his lawyers about 6 months ago and has been handling the case himself, which probably has a fair bit of this.
There's a quote about that.
The short sellers also helped fund his legal defense here, or part of his legal, but they caught him red-handed copying files and stuff like that. This is the guy that, Musk called the sheriff on and said, oh, he's going to come shoot up the plant. And so, that was...
Which was a false police report.
Yes.
That should have been acted upon.
Yes. That came out in this court case, but apparently it didn't really matter in the end.
But this guy does seem like a bit of an asshole.
Yeah.
Probably made some stuff up. You think the short seller is going to cover his $400K?
No.
I'm sure he doesn't have that, right?
No, I don't think so.
He was a rich man. So that's unfortunate for him.
I like our next story because it descends from grifting into fraud.
Yeah, and this was not a hard one to see coming because, what was it, last month when it was revealed that the Nikola, they had their big truck. They had a functional truck, right? Well, no, they didn't
Not
have
actually.
a functional truck. What they did was they tilted the camera and rolled it downhill. And everybody was like, oh, God, what does this mean? Is this company even going to exist in a month?
And GM was like, don't worry, we're involved.
Right,
oh, wait.
yeah. The GM partnership. They're like, why would GM would never partner with a company that is just pure fraud, right?
Surely GM is not that clueless about the electric car.
Well, we now have not the definitive answer, but I think we know where this is going.
Nikola stock plunges as company cancels its Badger pickup truck. That's not the headline I would have gone with. The headline I would have gone with was GM is basically pulling out except for a memorandum of understanding that they're going to supply hydrogen fuel cell technology.
Which means nothing.
Yes.
That's not enforceable in any way.
Yeah.
So if they probably just did that as a courtesy.
Yeah. So I would love to have been a fly on the walls during those meetings because I imagine there was a lot of screaming and yelling.
Ars Technica has used this same stock photo, or it's not a stock photo, but they've used the same photo again, but I forgive them because it's really good.
I think that this is probably also this is the first sign in there's probably a prosecutor reviewing this, and it's probably going to result in criminal charges for at least a couple of people.
Maybe. At least, they might try to get some money, but that's going to be blood from a stone, right?
Yeah.
Too bad. Well, Verizon is another company that likes to make big promises and rarely, if ever, delivers in full. But
or even a little bit.
Eventually, if you fight them long and hard enough in court and throw away enough taxpayer dollars, maybe you can make them fulfill their contracts.
Verizon is going to be wiring up 500,000 homes with Fios to settle a years-long fight with New York City. The ISP didn't connect the entire city as required, but it will connect another 500,000 households by 2023. These are going to be very carefully chosen high-density, high-rise apartments. I'll tell you that right now.
Disgusting.
Remember when we were supposed to have high-speed internet all over the U.S.?
Remember when we paid billions of dollars as taxpayers for that? Almost. Since that was enacted, it's approaching $500 billion the taxpayers have paid for that in tax breaks and credits and stuff to have fiber deployed literally everywhere.
How much?
I'm so glad I can find fiber on every house that I look at on Zillow.
How much? Somebody should do the math. Based on the current average rate, how long would $500 billion buy internet access for everybody in South Korea?
Probably decades.
And it would be good internet, too.
Yeah.
We talked about this last week. It was being hinted at, and now it's happening. No surprise, I don't think.
Salesforce has bought Slack in a $27.7 billion mega deal. Here's something fun to speculate about. What sorts of creative things is Salesforce going to do to extract $27.7 billion from the current users of Slack over the next 5 years?
Well, I think they knew that telecommunication was suddenly going to be a huge part of the business world, and they didn't really have any foot in that door.
Slack is IRC with GIFs.
Well, I like Slack, but I don't think it's worth that many $1 billion.
Unless you're going to extract a lot of money from the people that use it because they're hostages. which is what Salesforce does.
But now there's such a huge supply of competition in the marketplace.
Yeah. Teams is getting to be less awful, but there's so many other options for things that are self-hosted or quasi-self-hosted that are going to have a much lower cost of ownership. Heck, Linode. You can deploy stuff on Linode and get Slack and Teams-like functionality self-hosted right in the web browser.
And you know what? It costs way less than $27 billion.
Yeah. or whatever you're going to have to pay for that.
So one thing that you might be getting under the old Christmas tree this year would be some gift cards to some online streaming services, because they're getting more and more popular, and there's so many of them. So many. Which is why it kind of bothers me that we keep, week after week, getting more of them. Because at this point, if you got them all, you're now paying more than you were with cable channels that carried the same stuff.
Discovery to launch a streaming service in January starting at $4.99 per month. Verizon customers get the year free. So here's what I would like to do. I'd like to do a lawsuit against Verizon where I stream a bunch of stuff from Discovery for free that hopefully doesn't count against my data cap, because if it definitely doesn't count against my data cap, then lawsuit, and I want the equivalent amount of data added for things that are not Discovery.
So you're going to get some hot brands in this package. How about HGTV and Food Network?
Well, that's like prime old lady.
I wonder, you know, if we look at Spotify, let's stop for a second and look at the music industry as a model for what's going to happen with television, because it gets dark fast. So like with streaming in the beginning, the rates were terrible. But now the rates are beyond terrible. Did you see some of the stuff that came out from Spotify? It was like, here's a new artist thing, and Spotify's doing this thing. It's like, oh, as an artist, you did this, this, and this. There were some people that were really pissed off because they had the stats from Spotify, and it was like, your plays are up 130%. You reached 87% new people, blah, blah, blah. And they'd been on Spotify for the last 6 or 7 years, and they had gone up and done better on Spotify every year. But the amount of revenue that they got this year from Spotify was 63% less than 3 years ago.
It's not surprising. Yeah, I don't know how this shakes down to the TV show creators and producers, but I imagine the back catalog of those. I mean, how much are you getting per episode of those, like Hitler secret type shows?
We'll look at like what Alton Brown is able to do himself with, like, because he's on Food Network, was on Food Network, and he's able to do his own cooking show, which is fairly well done. I mean, he's got a production budget to do that, and he's able to get more money out of YouTube, which is admittedly terrible compared to Food Network.
I miss Bon Appetit. I can't believe what they did.
Are they not on it at all anymore?
No, chick, the orange chick, ruined it for everybody.
I thought Claire started her own channel.
Did she?
The one chick started her own. She's on Binging with Babish. But Claire, I don't know where Claire is. I thought Claire started her own channel.
I got to be a part of Claire's channel if she did it. I mean, that's the reason to watch, right?
She had a ring on her finger, Ryan.
Doesn't matter. You can still do programming or whatever. It's fine.
We'll live in sin. We talked a lot about Consumer Reports and their on again, off again relationship with Tesla. At first, they liked them and they ranked them very highly, and then they got some complaints, and then they got more complaints,
and then the bumper fell off, and Consumer Reports was like, "Oh, what are we thinking?"
But the Tesla crowd was very angry. They felt like it was not fair, and I imagine after this headline, they will be even angrier.
New electric cars have problems in the latest Consumer Reports survey, and Consumer Reports decides to predict poor reliability on EVs it hasn't even evaluated yet. It's a new technology. It's just not as exciting, etc., etc.
So, the older ones, the Leaf and I can't remember the other one, were good. But the new ones, the Nero, the e-tron, and the Model Y were garbage in a variety of ways. And they were like, you know what? based on these three being terrible, we're just going to assume that all the new ones are going to have these same problems, which is weird.
I think that it's surprising that electrics would be that problematic, because it seems like that there would be opportunity for somebody to design an electric that is super generic. Like the seats and all the componentry and everything is generic. The control electronics are generic. The motors are relatively generic. And that is the cost, like that drives the cost down, because there's like just the number of components that go into the device is relatively small.
Well, they sort of covered that. And
They did, yeah.
the ball bearings were bad in the Nero. The Tesla, I think most of the actual car parts were fine. They just really slapped it together. So like paint and fitting and build quality and stuff like that is what cost them all of their points.
Yeah, when it was talking about that, it reminded me of the some of the stuff that Elon Musk said in that interview, because he's like, oh, we could, cannibalize those parts of the GM production lines. It's like, yeah, that would actually probably lead to a higher quality Tesla.
If you remember when they were going through like the production hell, they couldn't get standardized parts.
Yeah.
So they were like, remember the cooling system?
Yeah, it's just parts from Home Depot.
Like they went to Lowe's and got some trim.
Yeah.
And built a little cage for it. Consumer Report's not a fan of that, I guess. Google is still trying to figure out how they can deliver the news while not upsetting the news companies, because the news companies feel like only they should get traffic. So what do? And they're constantly trying to rehash it. This is an interesting gambit to take.
Google says its news showcase will add free access to paywalled stories. Google is actually paying for this access. They've set aside $1 billion and emphasized that is only an initial payment of $1 billion to publishers. But this is what they want your news experience to be. News tailored to your specific interests or things that you flagged or subscribed to or whatever. And Google will license and pay for that content.
They won't choose it, though. They will leave choosing the stories that go into the showcase to the news companies themselves, which is interesting. I don't know. I use Google News, and I'm amazed at how little interest I have to show into a thing for Google to be like, we'll tell you everything about this.
You're going to see stories about this for years.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I don't even know what I did to trigger it.
I still occasionally get Barbie Dreamhouse content.
Really?
Yeah.
Here's one that I absolutely cannot explain. Google feels that I must learn everything about Jessica Simpson. And yeah, I mean, certainly she's a beautiful girl, but she's getting up there. I think if you're just going to look at beautiful girls, you'd probably go a little bit younger.
Google knows you better than you know yourself.
Maybe. It's like, I know you're into MILFs. I started watching the new Mandalorian. I thought that was pretty good.
I have not.
You been watching that?
No.
I like the episodic nature where it's kind of like they're following a main theme, but for the most part, they're just out having adventures. I think that's what you should do with Star Wars.
It seems to be well received as like the space western that was intended when Star Wars was created.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But it brought up an interesting thing about the nature of streaming technology and media that you never own. Because the fact that you never own it means that you can never be sure how it was originally intended to be seen.
Oh, they really 1984'd this episode.
They really did.
Disney digitally removes the Mandalorian's accidental crew member cameo. They don't have pictures in this video, in this article.
I think they do, yeah.
They do. There's one down at the bottom.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I couldn't. It's
I can't
in here
see it.
somewhere.
Yeah, I can't.
It's hard to make out.
They did
Yeah.
another article on this, because you can obviously get 2 articles out of this story, and they have another picture where they digitally removed the red flash or whatever.
Oh, to show who.
Yeah,
Who found that?
I know, right?
Now, I'm not a Disney Plus subscriber, so when I watch The Mandalorian, it's the weirdest thing. It just shows up on my hard drive,
It's crazy.
and I get rid of it because I know that's probably not something I should have, but I do watch it first, and it's a very dark show, especially the 4K rips. I mean, the files that show up on my hard drive, very dark. Extremely dark. Sometimes it's hard to see what's going on. I can't imagine how anybody spotted that dude.
Are you meant to watch it in the HDR or something?
That's like what they said with Game of Thrones, right? With the finale, everyone was complaining, I can't tell shit what's happening right now in the last battle. And then they were like, oh, you need to have special settings turned on your TV. And it's like, oh, shut up.
Maybe. I don't know. It is a good show, though. I enjoy it.
Maybe that's like the trend right now in filming is like make it really dark.
Well, by the time you guys watch this, it will be the 8th or 9th?
9th.
Cyberpunk.
9th, yeah.
It's Cyberpunk Day. Everybody's going to be playing video games today.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
It turns out that possibly because we're all locked at home, we're all playing more video games anyway.
Americans of all ages are spending more on video games, according to VentureBeat.com. It makes sense because what else you gonna do? Wah, wah.
Is this World of Tanks? So one of the most amazing, they broke this down by statistical category. The most amazing one, 45 to 54-year-olds, up 76%. It was probably pretty low to begin with.
Yeah.
Right.
What else are you going to do?
55 to 64 increased by 29%. That's
Are they
cool.
counting mobile games in this?
They're counting every kind of game, yes.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I didn't adopt video games. I adopted redoing my kitchen. That was my pandemic project.
You know, there are literally video games where you can redo your kitchen.
But then it'll be nicer. What, Krista?
I said yours was your whole pandemic project was redoing that house.
Yeah. And it's over now. Well, pretty much. And
Are you empty inside?
I am a little, yeah.
Now you have to enjoy the house.
It didn't feel the darkness. I tell you, I'm really enjoying the bathrooms. Every time I go to take a shower or do anything in the bathroom, it's like, this is amazing. Like,
You got good water pressure at that point?
Yeah. Oh, that was a story in and of itself. I had to dig up the sidewalk, and it was insane. I did not have to pay for that because that was a problem with the utility company. I just had to prove that it was a problem with the utility company, which is an uphill battle. But now it's perfect, and the pipes are all new. There's not a stitch of galvanized or cast iron or anything old. Well, there's a little bit in like one disused bathroom, but the main bathroom, and it's like I feel a new sense of privilege that I didn't have before, where it's like if you can design your own bathroom for your exact needs, that is a life-changing experience.
Are you
I don't know if it would be.
Are you all moved in yet? I guess.
Yeah.
Completely moved in?
Yep. Everything's not unpacked, but I've been staying there, so it works out.
I haven't seen the old house on Zillow.
Oh
'Cause
yeah.
I check Zillow every day.
That's it. That is in process. It's not. That's out of my hands. That happens whenever they get to it.
Yeah.
Well, we have just 2 social media stories today. It was not a big week for social media. We did cover some stuff in government about social media because they're getting sued by the government. I'm always curious, like where do you put this? Government? I figure it's whoever's making the action, right? If the government's doing the suing, put it in the government section. Anyway, Facebook, obviously, their MO is find a company that you think is going to be successful that has something that you don't, buy it, and eventually drive out all the old employees. They haven't gotten that far with this one yet, but they have done the buying part.
Facebook buys customer service software maker Customer, and rumor has it was for less than $1 billion. The specific terms of the deal have not been disclosed, but Facebook sees this as an opportunity for helping businesses on Facebook manage their customer interactions, but also across platforms, because that was the whole draw with customers. Like, you're interacting with customers on Facebook and Twitter and on your website and via email and chat and even phone calls. Customer handles it all because we're a customer relationship management software.
So eventually, the idea is that if you need to order a pizza or schedule some service for one of your appliances or something, or get your car, then Google or Facebook Messenger will be completely integrated with businesses. So you just go on Facebook and deal with all that stuff.
I would love to have a service like that could be like competent, because like my laundry room, I need to have a right hand exhaust for my dryer instead of at the back. And the dryer supports that. And I watched a video on like how to do that online, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to do this. I would love it if there was a website or a piece of software or something I could go and be like, is there a technician that would install, a right-hand dryer exhaust on this particular model dryer? And what is the charge? And if it's like $100, yes, I absolutely would just pay somebody to do that.
But the problem here is going to be the same problem I run into when I'm trying to buy takeout food from these little mom and pop places, where Facebook is their only point of contact. And
Right.
Facebook makes it nearly impossible to access their stuff without an account.
Yeah. Facebook needs to know who you are. Facebook
Yeah.
needs to know who you are, even if you're just going to enjoy your Oculus Rift that you bought, which is a little insidious.
Well, to be honest, they don't care if you enjoy it or not. But if you're going to use it, they need to know. And finally, a story out of Australia that shows that social media can be weaponized in a very, very destructive way that could actually, if you really wanted to play this all the way out, it could lead to war.
Yeah. Australia demands an apology from China after fake image of soldier posted on social media. It was an Australian soldier with a bloody knife to the throats of Afghanistan children.
The Globe and Mail doesn't even have it?
Yeah.
No, there's no picture. I was trying to scroll through and find it.
The rest of the story here, though, is that there were some soldiers in Australia that have gotten in trouble for killing and or maiming people in Afghanistan. So the picture was faked, but the story is real. Not the children part, but... Well, maybe the children part.
I don't know if I was just like a blind spot here or if it was, all the election and everything going on. I didn't hear about that story at all.
Yeah, nothing.
And I definitely peruse the kinds of websites that like to discuss war crimes.
Yeah. And Australia, usually it's the Americans that are in trouble because, we've hired Blackwater or somewhere and they're overworked and creating problems. And this is Australia.
Now, China is in a little bit of a tiff with Australia. The latest volley in that was they raised the tariff on Australian wine by 200%. So there's definitely a political angle here. But China's not backing down. They're like, yeah, okay, we faked it, but we faked it to prove a point, which is the Australians are murdering people in Afghanistan. I don't know how China's directly involved there.
Yeah. That seems like just stirring the pot.
I mean,
Stir the pot, but...
Aren't a lot of people in Afghanistan of the Muslim religion?
Mm-hmm.
And how does China treat those people?
Mm-hmm.
Do they need more kidneys? Is that what this is about?
The dark reality is that those kidneys are used as ingredients for the iPhone 12. That's what makes Apple devices Apple. They run on human organs.
Yeah. I don't know. But it is a disturbing image. You'll have to go look at it somewhere else. Actually, it's probably good we can't show it to you because YouTube probably demonetizes.
That, and it's just like, do I need to see that? No. Well, I'm sure you can find it on the internet somewhere.
Somebody is reviewing all the stuff that Linode monetized, and they're just like, "What? We paid for that? What is what?"
But a lot of you have been clicking that link. Thank you.
Yes, we really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Don't forget to do your Devember projects because there's giveaways there too. There's so much giveaways. Can you tell it's the end of the year? There's a lot of stuff we need to give away in this room.
And don't forget to build your exciting Minecraft. Chris, I forgot to mention that customer, the company that Facebook bought, they also use a K where they should use a C, just like you.
No, K is fine for cuss sounds. The issue is C represents the k sound and the s sound in English, and it should just be one or the other.
But the traditional, I have to think that the term Krista originates from Christ, right?
Right. But Christ is spelled CH, and that doesn't make sense either. It should just be K.
But your family is laughing in the face of God at the spelling of your name.
Harvey Krista.
Anyway, despite Krista's misspelled name, you must impress her on the Minecraft server if you want to earn those prizes.
We'll play stream a little bit of the server as well and see what people are building.
We will have already done that, Krista.
By then. But we'll do another one. You don't know.
Oh, 2 weeks of that, huh?
Yeah. Wendell loves it.
We need at least one more horde in 7 days to die, and then we'll be all right.
You're really into that.
That's
game,
true.
aren't you?
Yeah. Oh,
That's fun.
we might be able to stream Cyberpunk. It actually has a streamer mode where it turns off all the copyright nonsense.
But it's single player.
Yeah, so
I'm not sure if I'm interested in Cyberpunk. I mean, like, I would watch someone else play it, but like, it looks like Cyberpunk GTA,
RimWorld
but
is
not as interesting as San Andreas.
I'm ashamed to admit I'm gonna buy Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
Are you?
Yeah.
me too. Didn't RimWorld go multiplayer? Isn't there a multiplayer plugin for that?
There's a mod.
Architect just went
There's
multiplayer.
it's gaming talk all of a sudden, chat. There's a new game called Cultivation Simulator, and they straight up copied RimWorld, but it's Chinese. It's like Chinese history based RimWorld.
Huh.
Huh.
Strange.
So yeah, we gotta check that out. Twitch, Team PGP. Come and join us on Twitch and see these magical things that we're talking about.
Yes. Anyway, we will see you guys there, and we'll see you guys Friday for the last episode of the news. Bye. Hello, chat. Welcome to the last episode of the news for this week. It is December 11th, 2020, and we're doing robot and nonsense, which is like the best combo because it's just pretty much all nonsense all the way through.
Nobody's watching this episode because they're all playing Cyberpunk.
They might listen to it in the background.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of like open world grindy stuff that they want to do, so they could totally listen to this in the background.
I can get the upgrade for my penis. That was one of the things that it was supposed to have.
Isn't there a lot of sexuality based stuff where it's like super woke?
Yeah.
Won't that be disabled though if you're in the streamer version of the game?
Probably.
Because I know that'll disable music, but I don't know, like, will it disable the sexual content as well?
That did in Rust too, because
How?
Rust you'd get the blurs.
Oh yeah.
Do you think they'll region lock some of that? Because some cultures
Yes.
aren't fans of that.
They'll definitely have
Here's
to.
before we get started. Here's a great. We don't have this story, but you can go look this up on your own. Ritz crackers. Now, when you think about Ritz crackers, what do you think about?
Salty.
Gender equality. I agree. Yes. And so they put out a commercial that was just like they took all of their gender equality flashcards and like social justice flashcards, and they just threw them at an idea board, and they put everything in it. Every kind of aberrant human behavior is celebrated in the Ritz commercial. But here's what you got to do. Go watch the Spanish language version of the Ritz commercial. The Ritz Corporation celebrated a lot of homosexuality, but in the Spanish market, they removed all of that. Because it seems like the Spanish-speaking countries not as comfortable with it. And ultimately, it's about selling crackers.
When I think about crackers, like the other term, like, just bland, vanilla, safe. Like, what a weird marketing campaign for crackers.
Well, and crackers are, the word cracker itself is a racial slur. They should try to monetize that.
I bet the YouTube algorithm really struggles with that, and it's like better err on the side of caution.
All those holiday recipes.
Yeah, it's just
Don't crush up crackers and put them on your mac and cheese. That's a hate crime. Well, in the robot world.
well, no. Even before that, it's Linode.
I'm sorry. Yes.
This episode was sponsored by Linode, so you should check them out. It's self-improvement. It's Devember. You can improve yourself and learn how to code. Free credits from Linode. There's a link below, and you can set that up. You'd be hard-pressed to spend all the free credit that they give you before the end of December for your Devember project. Because I know you want to submit a Devember project so that you can win those free things and prizes and stuff. Linode credits and hardware.
Or perhaps you're fed up with trying to improve yourself and you just want to coast out the rest of the year and not really think about anything. You want just a mind-numbing activity that can while away the hours that you'd rather not spend in reality. And then if that's more of your speed, Minecraft.
We're hosting it on Linode.
You can build in our Minecraft server, and if your build is good enough to impress Krista, prizes are in your future.
Prizes.
Woo!
From store.level1text.com.
You got to tell us where your homestead is on the forum by replying to that thread. So that's
I'll have that pinned by now. As of recording, it's not pinned to the top of the forum, but it will be by the time this airs. So
Woo! So thank you all. Thank you all for supporting us, and thanks to Linode for supporting this episode of the news and Devember in general, because we've done a lot of stuff with Devember.
Now, if you're not a technical person and you don't like Minecraft, perhaps you will look for other things to do in December. Maybe you want to write a song. Yeah, that's a way to make money here in this dark time, right? You don't have to leave your house. Just throw it out there.
Yeah, people love being songwriters.
Yeah, see what happens with it. And but people have written a lot of songs. There's nothing new under the sun, as some people say. So what if you accidentally plagiarize your music? Spotify is here to help you.
Spotify just invented an AI technology that will police songwriter plagiarism. Hey, this sequence of chords sounds like this other sequence of chords over here. You plagiarized it. I can't imagine, this will end well. Could this possibly be effective?
Will this count, remixes as well? Will it realize, hey, this person's using a sample, or...
Well, in the case of a remix, I think you usually...
credit the artist.
Either get permission, or... the publishing is not yours, right?
Yeah.
The publishing still belongs to whoever wrote it.
What, I struggle to, depending on how good or how bad this AI is, I had a couple of music history classes because, the whole well-rounded education thing. And then, until the invention of, the piano, which was based on another instrument that was kind of similar to the piano, a lot of music sounded the same, like the popular music. And then, we sort of got into the classical era, and then a lot of classical music sounds the same. Are we entering an era where, the first person to come up with the way that something sounds? I mean, I know this is about lyrics and chords and things like that, but...
I don't think the lyrics are involved here. It's the actual music.
The actual sequences or whatever.
Yeah, they, submit your note file or whatever.
And I'll tell you...
that's what it's registering it.
A great... you think, this... When is this ever going to happen? This already happened. The kid, it was the son of a celebrity who made a huge song a couple years ago. The reason I remember it is the music video. Blurred Lines. If you've never seen the Blurred Lines uncensored music video, it's on YouTube. I recommend you check that out. I would go so far as to pause this video to check that out.
What's the 2016 memory? I think that was 3 or 4 years ago.
You'll thank me in the comments afterwards. But that guy got sued. I think was it Marvin Gaye?
Right.
Maybe.
He lost everything that he earned from that song.
Wow.
Everything. And it ruined his career. So don't be like him.
Do you think it was accidental or on purpose?
The court ruled that it was on purpose.
Wow.
It came down to there's a loop in the background, and people are saying yeah or screaming or something at a certain, and that was in the original song.
Oh.
And the judge was
that's a sample. Yeah.
That's the reason that you're losing everything here.
That's amazing. Well, if the AI catches that, then that'll be good. But I was worried that, it would, if somebody came up with something that sounded like classical music, as different as it was the music that preceded it, then one person would own all music that sounds kind of like that.
I think it'll still be bad, but maybe not that bad.
It gives you a score. So what might end up happening is there might have to be a Supreme Court case that decides what numeric value is the threshold for fresh music.
I'm just thinking about when we upload, test videos, and it's 3 minutes of silence, and then we get 8 copyright claims on that from 5 different records. It's the
copyright cartel will be all over this.
Yeah. It's this is the sound of our silence is copyrighted. It's
There's a Simon and Garfunkel joke in there somewhere. I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere.
And we were promised ages ago by all of the movies that came out in the 80s that we would be flying in cars by now. And it seems like 2020 has dealt a huge blow to that progress. I don't think anybody's working on flying taxis because guess what? Nobody's taking taxis in 2020. And that is probably what led to this headline.
Scoop. Uber is in talks to sell their air taxi business to Joby Avionics, I think. Not the people that make the Gorilla Pods. They in some cities, I guess, like New York or whatever, they have a chartered helicopter service where you can just Uber a helicopter. No one cares in 2020 at all. And I think this article seemed to say that Uber was hinting about selling all of itself, but maybe I misread that.
I don't know. I didn't see that part. But yeah, cool technology, but we probably don't need it until we solve some bigger problems. So they are selling it for cheap though. Buy low. They got that part at least. And you cannot currently take a taxi to the moon. You must have pretty much government support in order to get there. And the Chinese Communist Party has put their full support behind the Chang'e.
Chang'e's 5 mission lands on the moon. That sounded like I was pronouncing it funny, but
You put the possess. See, it's because Chang'e's got the apostrophe.
yeah.
It messed up your possessive.
Oh, no.
Is it Chang'e? I assume it is, but I've never heard it said out loud.
Yeah, Chang'e.
Okay.
This article talks about how it landed on the moon to collect a soil sample. At the time of us recording this, it has successfully lifted off from the lunar surface and has entered orbit around the moon. It is currently rendezvousing with its parent spacecraft and will soon begin a maneuver to return to Earth, which again is a huge series of milestones. Even if the mission is not ultimately successful, the fact that they made it this far is incredible.
Yeah, they got the collector, the ascent vehicle, the re-entry vehicle, the launch. It was all like comboed together. It all worked.
It is exactly like what's the series on Netflix that's got the really dry actor in it who's also directing it, Space Force. It's exactly like Space Force. The Chinese are depicted in Space Force as like super advanced, and the American space technology is always like bumbling and terrible, and this would seem to confirm that.
We'll see. We got the price of moon rocks is going to be heavily affected because it's basically, I think they're about to double the amount. How much did we bring back from the original moon mission?
A lot.
Did we?
Yeah.
That makes sense. I'm surprised they didn't leave one of the astronauts up there.
Well, NASA's tried to maintain control over it, which is why it's so rare.
One of the big things that people do with their computer when they're doing all this shared computing and stuff is protein folding. If you can just throw
Folding at home.
you throw computing power, it can be used to and that has huge medical implications if you can figure out what the proper shape of a protein is going to be, and we might be on the cusp of something amazing with that.
In a major scientific breakthrough, AI predicts the exact shape of proteins. So this is from the team that brought you AlphaGo. What is the name of this technology? AlphaFold. So AlphaFold is a neural net that has been trained on a tiny fraction of the AlphaGo resources. The researcher from Google called it modest, but didn't really specify what modest was. And it is apparently very effective. 66% of the proteins they tested it with, it was accurate to within 1 atom width. And the other 33%, the lab people described as actually very good. And there was one protein that had defied analysis through X-ray crystallography. And the researcher that was working on that was beyond excited because he's like, I finally have a picture of the 3D structure of what this is that I can experimentally verify, but that had eluded me because this particular protein didn't really want to be part of the X-ray crystallography. So exciting times. And once the algorithm's trained, it'll run on relatively commodity hardware.
Got to find something else to put all that unused computing power toward.
Well, folding proteins would be really good also for the vaccine. It mentioned how, hey, we've got a model of the protein that's used as the spike to enter cells, so we can use that to model more vaccines. So, yay.
Great. So then we can create more world-destroying vaccines. Yay. What if another one hit right now? There would just be just waves of suicides.
There was a bird flu.
I think they got that under control.
But that's not in humans, is it?
No, it's low risk to humans. So they're mostly just having to cull livestock, which is not great for other reasons, but it's not a direct danger to humans.
Around here, there are a lot of people suffering, and there is a lot of desperation. More from like the joblessness and economic impact of like no stimulus than anything else. Wow. I mean, there's a lot of people around here that can live under a flat rock, but
you just created a lot of engagement right there.
You did.
Sorry.
High engagement.
Rue responded to that as well.
Redirect that engagement to the level 1 Minecraft server. I don't know.
You please follow the forum rules if you're on the Minecraft server. You're just like curled up under the blanket because it's so cold up here.
Well,
I'm surprised the boiler snake hasn't made an appearance because it's running full tilt.
It was hissing a little bit earlier. Maybe he's not built up his pressure yet.
He's not got anything to really say about any of the stories so far, but he's getting there.
So one thing that Rue might be dreaming about, Krista, is getting back to her travel schedule. I know how much she loves to travel, and she has always mentioned to me that she's always wanted to see Japan.
Yeah, she would love Japan.
Yeah,
there's so many cats there.
Japan, they have a decent amount of tourism, but like most places in the world, that didn't happen in 2020 because no one's traveling. So what do you do? Let's say that the vaccines do work. How do you tempt people to visit your land? What amazing thing will you show them? We've seen this guy before, but it seems like he's made some leaps and bounds in terms of his actual functionality.
Giant Japanese robot spurs hopes for tourism after virus hit. Now, we saw him last time and can only lift up his crotch flap and lift his knee.
And he was hanging from cables.
Yeah, but now, he's going full tilt. Pretty soon somebody can hop inside him and fight Godzilla.
Although, look at the multiplier in the bottom there. He's moving real slow. This is 4 times actual speed.
He weighs 27 tons.
He's a big old boy.
It's cool. He's a Gundam.
I'd buy an overpriced hot dog and soda to go look at the Gundam.
That might be true. Yeah, I would like to explore his insides.
Yeah.
What sort of interface does he have? Is it like a full mocap rig inside the thing, or is he just fully remote controlled?
No, I don't think there's any human driver.
No, I mean, but
Yeah. Well, when you play the lottery, I imagine. Well, before I read this headline, I would have said that nobody does this, but it turns out a lot of people do this.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know what they're thinking, but it is a rare. Statistically, this has to be in the trillions, right?
yeah, I mean,
in a trillion?
it seems like this would just be impossible.
But it happened, and a lot of people are saying, wait a minute.
South Africa's lottery probed as 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are drawn, and 20 people won because some people chose those lottery numbers.
Why start at 5?
Maybe it was random chance. Maybe the universe's random number generator has had enough of our crap and was just like, all right, here, this is it.
Now, this was 5.7 million rand. Once you break it down amongst 20 people, that is about $370,000. But in Africa, I bet that goes a long way.
Yeah. Well, the news articles from South Africa referred to them as millionaires. So,
Well, in rand, yeah. 5.7 million. So, that the last number there was at 9 or 10 was the Powerball. So, and some people got everything but the Powerball, and they got a pretty decent little payout themselves. Yeah, I guess it's the whole thing where, statistically, the numbers are completely independent of one another. So it's no more likely, although when you think of them as a group, it is a lot less likely, especially sequential.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the ordering, if the lottery's like here, though, I don't think order was part of it. Because here you could draw 3 and then 50. And then when they display them, they sort them.
But the fact that you got a sequential string is what I'm saying.
Oh,
it's like
yeah,
a poker hand where you get it straight.
Yeah.
It's way, way less likely.
Yeah.
We talked last week about the monolith. There have been a lot of developments, a lot of monolith developments. I think there was actually another story that I didn't include about another monolith.
Another mysterious monolith suddenly appears, this time in Romania. Seems like it's pretty similar, although a little different than the old one. And it also has now disappeared.
Has it?
I think so. I thought maybe that's wrong. I read on another website, not NPR, that it had disappeared.
This is someone's traveling art project. This is the equivalent of a traveling gnome.
It might have been fake news.
But this one has a weird coloring. They're not sure what it's made of, and it has patterns drawn on it.
Huh.
So it's probably a different monolith.
It's going to be funny when we find out this was all a marketing agency. They planted that first one and waited, and as soon as the news story hit, they launched the project to put them in all over the world.
Guys, we're remaking Contact. We may have accidentally destroyed Arecibo, but the monoliths, right? Right?
There he is. A big fan of monoliths.
Or unhappy with what happened to Arecibo.
I can hear him on my side. He's really banging.
Well, he's trying to escape his prison, his boiler prison. We enslave him for his heat.
I've only got one slightly saggy pipe, and it's going to be hard to replace.
That's going to be the one he uses to get out. And you know who else is escaping?
Said it out loud.
What was that, Krista?
I said you said it out loud, so now he knows where it is.
All right.
He knows there's a weakness.
He just got quiet because he went to attack that weak point. But you know who else is trying to escape the bounds of high house prices? It's the San Franciscans. San Franciscans or San Franciscoans?
San Franciscans.
San Franciscans.
The Franciscan monks.
You're right, yeah.
Good riddance. Tech's flight from San Francisco is a relief to some advocates. It's got to be, I got to wonder what's going on inside the head of somebody that's like, oh, I live in one of the tech capitals of the world, but I have nothing to do with the tech industry. I really wish that it would go away.
Well, I think they lived there before, or their family lived there.
Yeah.
Are you saying those people should just leave?
They're that unhappy.
Talk about an ivory tower.
So this is an article about how, because of the whole global situation, a lot of people work from home. A lot of people work from home. Home could be anywhere. So a lot of people are leaving San Francisco because of its real estate market and the cost of living there, which is going to bring housing and all the other prices down.
Now, I would argue that San Francisco's problems do not stem from the tech industry or from the housing market even. I would say those are symptoms of an evil, socialist, corrupt government who want to control everything about the lives of their constituents. And as proof of that, I'll present this.
San Francisco bans smoking inside apartments. However, pot smoking is okay. The surprising thing about this is they also banned vaping inside of apartments. But again, pot smoking is okay. I think vaping is far less destructive indoors. This is an entirely inconsistent and terrible policy.
What if I put just a couple of drops of THC in my vape oil?
At least vape smells good. Like both cigarette smoke and pot smoke smell awful.
Yeah.
Now they did want to ban pot, but when they actually put this up for review, some pot smokers came along and they were like, okay, yeah, you're going to ban pot? I have a medical card. So what about that? And they're like, just go outside. And they pointed out, it's illegal for me to go outside and smoke pot. And so these politicians were just like, whatever, just smoke pot.
We could change the law that says it's illegal for you to smoke outside. But let's just not do that.
It's disgusting. So good news is, if you're a smoker, those house prices should start coming down. You can get yourself a house. You don't have to be in the apartments anymore. Oh, Krista, this story, I imagine you've not read this yet. And oh boy. So what if I told you, Krista, that at the end of 2020, not only is there a black hole relatively close to you here in our little galaxy, but that you are moving toward it at a faster pace than ever in history.
I can't stand that. I hate to know that.
You are being every moment, like just now, Krista, just right now, we're closer than we were when we started talking about this. And you are just, you're never going to escape it.
Rue looks distressed as well. We're both very distressed by this news. Earth faster, closer to black hole in new map of galaxy. And by close, I'm sure this is still like quote unquote space close, where it's, still ages away.
2,000 light years closer to the center of the galaxy. And we're moving 2 kilometers per second faster than previously estimated.
7. So yes, Krista, probably your distant progeny, your genealogy, assuming you breed, will be the ones to be destroyed by this black hole. But I still think you should fear it.
I should, yeah, irrationally so. In fact, I think I'm going to stay in my house.
I'm pretty sure
through the whole winter.
Because that'll protect you from the black hole.
I'm pretty sure the sun is going to kill us all before the black hole, but maybe not.
Yeah. I think I sent an article about it, but I don't know if it made it into the cut, about the sun firing off a giant solar flare last week. That. It's in our group chat, but
oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't really monitor that.
Yeah.
And also I added a late breaking news item about TSMC making Intel's Atom and some of the Xeon system on chip line.
What, you guys act like You don't have access to the.
I know, I forgot. I just
Oh, you know what? The comments don't load.
Yeah.
You got to put it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was a giant solar flare last week, and it wasn't great, though it didn't take out any electrical systems. It's just preparing for the end of the month.
The solar flare has to be pointed toward Earth. So if that solar flare had been pointed toward Earth, that would have been a Carrington event.
Here's how it plays out. 2021, the vaccination rate is like 2%, but it's okay. And so they really ramp up vaccine production, and there's just all over the road. There's trucks everywhere. It's on trains. It's on planes. There's vaccine everywhere, heavily refrigerated. Boom, solar flare.
The Carrington event takes all of that we manufactured out and erases the hard drive that had the formula for making more.
And the labs can't spin back up. They're done.
Because all the computers have been formatted.
Anyway, we should definitely not invest in our infrastructure. It's fine. Let's just keep pretending that nothing can ever happen bad.
Krista, what we're going to invest in, and I think the chat can agree with me, are PlayStation 5s. Because there is a level of excitement going on the PlayStation 5 that you can't afford to pass this up.
Spider-Man, Miles Morales' bug turns you into trash.
Oh, it's Miles Morales.
Ooh, embarrassing.
So yeah, there's some fun tweets here, and people, if you run into an object in the right kind of way, you will become that object. Here's a brick.
Spider brick.
The dream of Gmod continues well into the 2020s.
There's also
it's like playing prop hunt.
There was a trash can. There was this giant girder type thing.
Spider girder.
Look at it go.
They should not patch that out. They should leave that in, because that's beautiful.
That is sort of funny.
Can you correct it, or do you just have to reload your save?
I think you have to reload because it's involuntary. It has to do with the collision somehow. If Spider-Man collides with that object, he can become that object, which is a weird bug.
That's a glitch in the Matrix right there.
Yeah. And you might have a hard time finding a PS5. They are certainly, the stock is not good because everybody wants one. And some people want them really, really badly. Now, Krista, would you have a problem with hubby if he came home today with a PS5?
I wouldn't care. I would prefer he discussed it with me first before.
What if he came home with like the deluxe edition with 20 games, like the entire launch library and extra controllers and VR, and he spent like $2,000 on it, maybe more than that?
I would not be thrilled about that unless we had discussed it first.
Well,
and like he had given me a reason for why he really wanted it.
That is certainly what this gentleman was afraid of when he made a very. I don't know if he planned. You think this was off the cuff, or did he plan this?
The article makes it sound like he saw one and he's like, oh, I need to do that.
You think so?
Like it was a crime of opportunity.
It's brilliant either way. But if he came with this on the fly, because as soon as she asked the question, that is like absolutely, 100 IQ big brain play right there. Krista, there's a headline.
Oh, sorry, I was reading the rest of it. Man's wife sells his PlayStation 5 after he discovered he lied and said it was an air purifier.
So
kind of looks like it, I guess.
She listed it for sale,
but
he had to meet the buyer because it was like, hey, you're not even scalping this, and it's like, I know, my wife made me get rid of it.
The buyer is the one that we get the story from, and he pointed out that he was he thought it was fraud. Because why would anybody sell an unused PS5 for such a low price? And then he learned the dark truth.
That is a good question, though. Like, if you're the wife in that situation and your husband has gone behind your back to buy this, why would you not sell it for a slightly higher price? At least then you'd profit off of it, though you still have the broken trust from your spouse. But
I think she was just trying to get rid of it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I don't think she wanted him to enjoy it at all.
Wow. Healthy dynamic there.
So hey, here's a public service announcement. You signed a terrible contract. Talk to the other person before you do things, because you don't have a choice now. You've ruined your life. This is from the Times of India, Times Now News. Actually, the Times of India is more reputable, right? This is kind of stealing their thunder. I have no idea if this is true.
It seems weird.
It's sensational, but it's such a fun story. It's nonsense. I definitely relax my level of scrutiny for the nonsense.
Right.
Mistakenly given hair restorer for upset stomach, children sprout hair all over their bodies. And they get a picture of a child's shoulder that
But
is...
this could be anybody. That could be my shoulder.
I don't think your shoulder's that tiny.
But there's no... what's the reference to see how big it is or not?
There isn't one, but I
Yeah.
could see that big on a toddler.
So this happened in Spain, I think.
So it's credit news flash.
It was the pharmaceutical manufacturer that mislabeled the bottles. So it wasn't the medical workers that got it wrong. It was the wrong stuff in the bottle.
20 Spanish children sprouted hair all over their bodies. Whoops.
That's a lawsuit.
Here in America, those children would be able to retire.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I found it on the Daily Mail as well,
Well, that's
which
a little
is
bit
also
better, I
not
guess.
great. Oh, there's more pictures on the Daily Mail article that are definitely kids, though.
Oh, okay.
It's not a great look.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't
Wow.
want your kid to be covered in hair.
No.
At that point, you just get a cat, right?
Yeah.
Well, Hong Kong, in amidst all of the horrible things that happened in 2020, one of them that we overlook is that Hong Kong completely lost their revolution.
They really did, yeah.
They are under draconian controls now and with no hope of fighting it at this point.
Nope.
Because the laws have changed. They've cracked down on everything. It's basically the Communist Party in charge.
And now they're retroactively erasing you.
And you're going to get stuff like this, which is just, I mean, imagine being this guy.
20 police officers arrest a Hong Kong student leader over the purchase of laser pointers during 2019 demonstrations. So they arrested him and said that he's got too many laser pointers. And when people started freaking out, they said, no, you don't understand. These are blue laser pointers. They're not the red and green laser pointers that they were, that they were supposedly bought for. So yes, obviously it took 20 police officers to arrest this student. That makes perfect sense. This is totally not to create a chilling effect where you don't dare oppose Mother Russia, or not Mother Russia, but you know what I mean.
Also Mother Russia.
Sure, they're involved somehow. So, yeah. Too bad.
Very disturbing.
F's in the chat for that poor gentleman who is going to be having a tough time.
I wonder if he could immigrate to the UK.
At this point, if he tries to get on a plane, I think he would just be killed.
Just tweet, please.
I thought the UK, didn't they offer, asylum
Yes.
for people trying to flee Hong Kong?
But you have to be, is it just everybody?
I think you have to have at least some relative or some kind of family connection to Britain, which, as long as the British occupied, maybe. I don't know. Chat engagement and engagement challenge. Let us know what the details of that are. Is it legit?
Could some lonely young British girl marry him out of there?
Probably, yeah.
There you go. That should be a new dating app. Dissident date. Now, this is one that's close to my heart because I am one of what I thought was an aberration. I thought I was the minority.
Yeah,
It turns out
you're
maybe I'm not.
degenerate.
It turns out maybe there's a lot more of us, lurking around than people thought. I do not understand because I understand more the current kids or humans. I mean, everybody's playing games now. But if you were born when we were born, there was no mouse look. Let's get that on the table right here. There was no mouse look. Doom didn't have mouse look. Wolfenstein, those were the first FPS games. Just all keyboard. We didn't start using mouses to look at things until Quake. But we did have flight sims. And in flight sims, toward you is up, away from you is down. How do you not get that?
There's a gaping hole in their knowledge. The scientists studying why gamers invert their controls. Our article asking why so many players invert their controls provoked a fierce debate that has now caught the attention of researchers into visual perception. If you don't know, the things that you see are projected upside down and backwards on the back of your brain. Not really.
Well, we don't know why, but maybe we'll get some answers. It seems to me that non-inverted means that you are focusing on a point in front of the player. But I've always imagined it as like, basically I have a hand on top of the player's head.
Yeah, it's like, look up.
And when I pull it back, you look up. When I push it forward, you look down. That's just always how it's been in my world. Apparently that's not the norm.
I can't do it.
I used to use a mouse left-handed, but because it's hard to get a left-handed mouse, I learned to use it right-handed, and now it feels weird to use a mouse left-handed.
But you don't invert, right?
No, but I don't know. I have to map everything to reverse, switching from left to right hand. So I could definitely feel that tickling a certain part of my brain.
What about backing up in cars? Does that give you any issues?
Yeah, it's left from my right. The backup camera is just, it's a disaster.
It took me a while when I was learning to drive to understand like which way the car would go when I backed out.
But it goes the way you turn the wheel the same.
I eventually got that, but it took me a while because I was a bad driver when I was 16. I'm probably still not a great driver, but I'm better than I was.
Well, at least you admit it. And admitting something when you are that thing is important, especially in politics. And so often our politicians, they rule in a way that is not only contrary to the desire of their people, but their own desires.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Anti-gay Hungarian politician József Szájer resigns after being caught attending a 25-man orgy in breach of the pandemic rules. So, yeah, he was vehemently anti-gay, but apparently we point this out a lot on the Level 1 news, where like when there's a politician that's like super against something and they're like, they're really vitriolic, that's something that they, it's like we need to make this illegal because there's a lot of degenerates out there doing this thing. It's like chances are that person is doing that thing.
Yeah, it's so often it happens. And
I think, didn't he just like jump out the window as soon as he got caught?
Yeah.
He tried to escape out the window.
Yeah.
And when they finally caught him and they were getting ready to cuff him, he was like, no, I'm a politician. He's a MEP. I don't remember what MEP stands for, do you?
That's
Member of European Parliament?
Yeah. That's a fairly high up politician.
Now, I like to imagine, so the things, his anti-gay laws weren't that you couldn't be gay. It was that gay people could not adopt and marry. Was marriage one of them?
I wonder if he's like, I would never have known I was gay if I'd never been exposed to that. And it's just, that's a tragedy.
See, here's what I think happened. I think he's got, because he's a man of power, probably got some money. He's got a young lover, right? And he's really enjoying that. But every once in a while, his young lover's like, oh, let's adopt. And he's like, oh, let's make that illegal.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
That sounds like the political stories here. Our election's been stolen. Oh, wait.
Also, a 25-man orgy. Jesus Christ. I mean, they always have to take it so much further. That's true. There's one man out.
It's an odd number. Someone's being left out at some point.
Somebody's got to serve the drinks. Oh my God! What is wrong with this website?
Oh, something's broken. They're trying to shut it down.
What website are you on?
Oh, there it goes.
Did you change the order?
No, it just wouldn't load for a second.
I think if it stays loaded too long, I was trying to do something. Maybe it was trying to serve an ad or something. It couldn't. Now, if you guys can think back, was it like 2015 when we had one of my favorite politicians in history as Rob Ford, the crack smoking mayor?
Yeah,
right up.
And he was like, "Yeah, that's me. What of it?"
Go back on YouTube and watch his press conferences. Yeah. The one where he is arguing with a reporter because she seems to think that he's attracted to her, and he says something like, I won't repeat it because we'll get demonetized. I'm paraphrasing here when I say, no, he said, no, I don't want to perform oral sex on you. I have a wife. I performed oral sex on my wife this morning. That was his defense. Because he was a crack smoking mayor. But he's not the only crack smoking mayor.
Messina mayor's arrest connected to investigation of drug sales and possession. I'm the mayor. You can't arrest me. Turns out we can.
So what was going through this guy's mind, I can't imagine. He ran from the cops, and during his run from the cops, did the old move where he threw the baggie out the window, and they recovered the baggie, and what was in it? Crack cocaine.
Baby powder.
Probably cut with a little bit of that. Laxative, I think, is what they use, Kristen, not powder.
Oh.
So, yeah. Not a good Christmas for Mr. Courier. There was apparently a whole conspiracy of drug sales and stuff going on in this town. I'm pretty sure this is upstate New York because the mailing address for North Country Now is New York.
I was also trying to determine that and thought the same thing.
So Rob Ford country.
He was in Canada. Close enough?
Close enough.
I think his brother's still in politics in Canada.
Yeah.
Amazing. And when it comes to politicians behaving badly, that might be our most extreme case this week. Well, I don't know. You think the Hungarian or the New York guy? Which is worse?
I think the Hungarian guy affects a lot more people negatively.
There's a lot of hypocrisy,
Yeah.
but there is something extra disgusting about legislating against the minority that you are and hiding it. These other ones, not as tame, but maybe even more, or at least the same amount of hypocrisy when it comes to the lockdown and how our politicians behave during that lockdown.
Austin mayor tells community to stay home while in Cabo after flying a private jet there. And that was a day after attending a wedding with 20 guests. It's like, hello, do you not know how this works? Come on. I hate this too because a lot of the conspiracy theorists are like, oh, they know that this isn't real because they're doing all this stuff. And if it was real, they would take their own safety into account. And it's like, no, there's no accounting for human insanity.
No, they're just used to a certain kind of lifestyle that we afford them because we're stupid.
Yeah.
And they're not willing to give it up for any reason. That's why they do this.
And here's the thing too, like they also know that if they get sick, they'll get the best treatments.
That's
like
true. Yeah. Well, if
they don't have to pay for it.
They look at all the high-ranking people who've gotten it. It's like, oh, I think I'm fine. Let's just have that delicious dinner. And our next headline continues the theme.
Elected officials dine out after urging others to stay home. The Associated Press has some instances of that for us.
Kind of a lot of them, but it's all the same story.
See, I really hate this because it adds so much fuel to the, don't even bother. This is not a thing that's real. But like wearing masks does help.
And this chick, I can't remember what her name is. Oh, London Breed. That's kind of a cool name, actually. She went to this same restaurant that Gavin Newsom went to, the French Laundry. They just can't get enough of that restaurant. I bet the food there is amazing.
I think it has a Michelin star. Like that should tell you how expensive it is.
How does the mayor afford that? She shouldn't be making that kind of money. What's the mayor making?
Too much.
She has public funded health insurance as well, so if she gets sick, we'll pay for it.
Oh my God.
We are losing the elderly at an alarming rate.
Maybe we should start giving them French Laundry food.
It might be their last meal.
Yeah.
Well, if you have contracted the vid and you feel like you're down to your last meal, I have a suggestion for you of what that last meal should be. And you might be thinking, well, maybe I don't even like those, but just think about the color of your poop after this. It's going to be amazing.
Lady Gaga and Oreo team up to spread musical messages of kindness with limited edition cookies. So they changed the cookie design to be messages of love and understanding.
But I don't really... Okay, Krista, you're the artist.
Right.
Number 1 I get is a heart. Number 2 is the name of the album. I don't know what the other stuff is. What is number 3?
I think it is Lady Gaga in some kind of snake dress.
The Tree of Life.
A snake dress?
Well, because, the ends of the dress, wrap around. But you can see she's got the crazy, heels that she wears coming out of the bottom there, and then the top is, a figure with hair flowing.
Speaking of which, did you see that Oreo Thins is now a thing? They're made especially for Ryan, people that don't like as much cream but like the cookie part.
Again, degenerate.
I've
Inverted controller.
I've covered this many times. I'm insulted that you don't remember. The Thins reduce the cookie and the cream in the same ratio.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I think the video that I saw of them, because I'd never seen them in video until recently, had the same... apparently in the video, the cookie looked the same, but the cream was just about gone.
Now, I've had these years ago, so maybe they have a new one.
Yeah, this was something they were really pushing probably in the last week or two. And the cookie looked to be the same size, but there was practically no cream.
That would be perfect, because there's too much cream in Oreos.
Well, I'll have to look the next time I go to the grocery store and bring it to the stream.
But they definitely had thins before, and the ratio was the same. They were just overall smaller. What's the point of that?
Yeah.
It says the cookies are bright pink with green filling, but that does not look like bright pink to me.
It's kind of a flesh.
Orange, yeah.
The camera was trying to white balance and failed.
There's something about that's off.
The package is certainly pink, and that's not the same color as the cookies.
Yeah, not at all.
I don't know. Well, I saw this headline and I thought there would be some great examples. There really aren't, unfortunately. But what we do have here that I feel like is worth checking out real quick are the top 10 names of dogs and cats in 2020.
Top cat and dog names in 2020 include names related to the thing. I didn't get that from this list, but okay.
I didn't
well,
either.
no, they said after, like at the end of the story, there's a little line. It's like, oh, but none of those names are in this list. Fauci or Fauci or whatever. That's one of them. People are naming their pets Fauci, and of course the C word.
Nice.
Yeah, but let's look at
Ramona would be like, yeah, because that sounds like almost like a regular name.
Let's look at them, and I feel like these are very boring pet names.
I like the name Charlie for a dog. That's cute.
But that's a person name.
These are all person names.
Except, well, I guess Simba could be a person too.
Oh no, is the other tab making noise ruining the recording?
Uh-oh.
Wouldn't that be a tragedy? Yep.
Is it check the OBS recording quickly and make sure that it's not?
Zero left just a second ago. What the fuck?
Chat.
Wait, it's not picking it up.
All right, good. We've excluded that source. Yes. Thank you, past selves, for planning for this contingency.
I don't know which tab.
It's
is it?
the
next
next
tab.
one. Perth now.
Mute.
That was a close one, you guys. Close. Super close.
I think we've had that happen once before, and I think that's why we excluded the
Yeah.
scene for like the browser, the sound.
This one was amazing.
Yeah, this one is. It's not an animal that we ever deal with, but you do hear stories.
We have to deal with the bear version of this.
There's that great video of the guy fishing, and the kangaroo comes up behind him and kicks him into the pool. But kangaroos are apparently pretty powerful creatures, and you don't want to get on the wrong side of them.
Sarah Jessica Parker perfume blamed for Melbourne kangaroo attack. So this kangaroo came up behind a girl and pushed her down to the ground, and then just sort of was kind of puzzled, and then chased her. And the game warden thought that it's probably her perfume.
What do you think the end game was in his mind?
This is another kangaroo.
So you think Sarah Jessica Parker perfume smells like kangaroo?
I don't know.
Apparently.
The picture they have in the article as well, I think this might be a wallaby and not a kangaroo, because when you see pictures of kangaroos, they look jacked. Like, they're super buff, and this does not look like that. That would be terrifying, though, if you're running and something that big came up and just, like, pounced on you.
Christy, are you doubting an Australian's identification of a kangaroo? I don't think you're in any...
I don't know. I'm
Place
saying
you
the
do.
article, whoever wrote the article, the editor, they might have picked a picture of a wallaby and not.
Perth now, these are also Australians, Christy.
I don't know. Someone was like, who puts on perfume to go on a run? And she was like, I couldn't find deodorant, so that's what I did.
She said that. She was
Yeah.
like, oh, why am I supposed to... But pro tip, chat. Here's a pro hygiene tip. Perfume does not perform the same operation as deodorant.
Yeah.
That is a pro hygiene tip.
People make that
Pro
mistake.
hiking tip. Don't bother carrying deodorant because you're going to stink either way. And it's not worth the wait because it will not work after an hour or two of hard hiking.
And our final story, which usually we like to do a little bit of an upbeat story for the final one, or at least funny. This is
This is dark.
kind of funny, but it is just
Mostly dark.
horrific. And I got to say, one of the craziest headlines you'll ever read.
formerly celebrated Eastern Kentucky teacher born without arms or legs indicted on child sex charges. And it's like they must have gotten something wrong here. Nope, they've got some text messages that are pretty damning.
So she was like a student or teacher's assistant or something like that. I think she's recently out of school, so she's doing that whole period where you go to different schools and help and stuff and learn the trade. And apparently took a shine to one of the young men. I don't know which way who propositioned who, but they both said yes at some point, it seems.
Yay for technology for capturing this tragedy.
The sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home.
There's so many questions I have about this. Most of the jokes that I can make about it are a little too insensitive for the level 1 filter. But how do you imprison her?
I mean, I don't know. This case is going to be a mess.
Yeah, that is actually a good question because I don't think prison facilities are really designed around her kind of use case.
Oh, God. She is going to get severely, severely abused. Plus, she has to have her chair, right?
Yeah.
How much contraband could you pull out of that chair?
Yeah.
How many items inside that chair could I use to stab somebody?
A lot.
And women's prisons, that's not such a big thing, but I'm sure the rules apply across the board, right?
It would. The only really compassionate option is going to be some kind of house arrest, but then there's nobody to take care of her.
Right, exactly. But her skill is teaching kids. You obviously can't let that happen anymore, right?
Nope.
Right, she'd probably lose her teaching license.
She probably is able to get some kind of disability check, even though she's, working here. But
I think, and maybe I'm looking for excuses for her because of her condition, but I feel like probably she didn't get a lot of attention from the opposite sex.
Yeah.
Because of her condition. And then one day that changed. And she just, it's like if the Impala all of a sudden starts chasing the lion.
Oh yeah.
And the lion's like, what? I don't know. I can't run away from this. I'm not built for this. This has never happened.
It's awful.
Yeah.
But you can't diddle the kids. I don't care what your excuse is. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
Truly dark story to end on for the week.
Well,
Mistakes were made.
Krista, it is 2020.
It is. It is a dark year that we'll one day look back on fondly as the times when it wasn't so dark.
Maybe we will, maybe we won't, because maybe we'll all be dead.
We all, yeah, the new death projections is like 350,000. That's scary.
But it could be interesting that if we live a really long time, people will be interviewing us and be like, "Oh my God, you were alive during the virus."
I stayed at home and I hung out on the couch.
You went through it. What was it like?
I love there's a German commercial that seems like it's going to be about World War II, and it's like, the greatest generation, what did they do? World War II, whatever. And it's like your charge, like the most important thing you can do in this generation is just stay home. Like don't do anything. And it's sort of making the comparison.
Yeah.
Like, what were you doing? And it's like this old dude. He's like, I stayed at home for the good of the country.
Rosie the relaxer.
I learned how to bake bread.
How did you get through it, Grandpa? Are you familiar with Monster Train?
Cyberpunk 2077 is how I got through it.
I played a lot of Monster Train. I got to Covenant rank 18.
What does that mean, Grandpa? You wouldn't get it.
Shut up and get Grandpa another beer.
You think, do you think that's what, that seems like that's what that's going to be. That's how that's going to, I don't even know how we return to normal.
Maybe we don't. But one thing we will do is return next week to give you more news.
I also like that about the death count. I've noticed the death count people. It's like, oh, we normally lose 150,000 people a year to flu and everything else. It's like, well, it's like 300 this year, so it seems a little worse.
But I do think that there are a lot of those mixed up in that.
Yeah, no, yeah. If you have, there's a couple people that I know, and their guy died of something not the thing, but the thing definitely caused the other thing, like without question, because they were fine.
And well, but then it's like a chicken and egg type thing.
Yes.
And so
Right.
how do we count it? It seems like they just, again, I think there's a monetary reason for hospitals to check that box,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is unfortunate because, of course, they're going to do that.
But I mean, if it were me, like if I went into the hospital and I had the thing and I barely survived, and they're like, congratulations, you're free of the thing, but your numbers still don't look good. You have an infection somewhere. And then I hung on for like another 3 or 4 days or like a week and then died, I would definitely want it to be counted as the thing. Because
Well,
I feel
it's
like
the final nail in the coffin. Like,
Yeah.
you might have survived a normal thing, like a normal infection, but with that on top of it, like,
yeah, it's like I did not have any, like I have no history of having weird infections that are, hard for doctors to find. And then I died of that, and that's the thing that happened. And it's like, no, that doesn't, I mean, I feel like that I would have survived if I hadn't had the thing and almost died of that.
Well, in the last moments, you've certainly guaranteed a robust comment.
yeah, I mean, we kind of got baited there, but like, here it comes.
Maybe you know how you have a DNR? Maybe in your DNR, it's like, if you're in one of these bizarro edge cases, how would you like us to count your death?
Now this is Newsmax talking. So yeah, it's completely one side. I do enjoy listening to it sometimes. They claim that there are old people who, like, on their deathbed are like, "Don't count me. This is not it. That's not what's killing me. Don't count me."
Well, they have, if they can even talk while through the breathing tube.
Yeah, you got to wonder if, like, the last thing you get to say on Earth, are you really going to go with that? Maybe you will.
I've seen a lot of stories where nurses say, like, that's the last thing. People are still saying, like, no, I don't have it. It's not real.
Yeah,
and they're
that's right.
like, you can't breathe. Like,
Do we have harrowing stories like that from nurses when old people die of the flu every year?
How about the Spanish flu?
Probably the Spanish flu, yeah. I mean, there were stories about that. But, I feel like in the Spanish flu days, people were a lot more serious about wearing masks.
well, there were still anti-maskers. There's photos of people who, it wasn't as widespread, I don't think, but I also wonder if the media focusing on those people now is what makes it seem like it's more widespread as well.
We should start a genealogy service that tracks you back to find out if your people were maskers or anti-maskers.
Oh, look at this branch of your family tree. It stopped at the same time as this hit. Huh. I wonder if those things are related. All right. That's enough. That's enough baiting the commenters.
Yeah.
Krista, why don't you give us, as a sort of a, because of you've maligned the Australian people so much, why don't you give us an Australian goodbye? I know you've got an Australian accent. I've heard it.
It's not good, though, and I'm trying
That's
to think
why
about
I love it.
Goodbye, mate.
Perfect.